All right, so we are back, and now we are looking at chapter 2. So our journey started. Remember that our journey is based on the rational model. So here, the first thing that we'll remember, the model is all about, one of the key things about it is that we need to be able to generate strategic options. And we said that we cannot generate strategic options if we don't know what we are trying to achieve. We've stated this and mentioned this quite vigorously, that it's important to have objectives to pursue. So we're gonna learn about mission, then we're gonna talk about vision, values, and stakeholders. And essentially, all these things are all about defining the purpose of the organization. If I'm to understand an organization and where it will be playing, I can just refer to these elements here. Its mission statement, its vision statement, its values, and its stakeholders. That will give me an overall understanding about an organization. And it therefore follows that the first thing that we'll need to understand is the purpose of an organization. And when we talk about purpose, two things are important there. It is, how does an organization make a difference? If an organization has to exist, it has to make a difference. And simply speaking, we can't have an organization that if it was there or not there, our lives will not be improved. So that organization doesn't have the right purpose. So the how does it make a difference? It's very crucial. And even for yourself, if you find yourself looking to start a business, you need to start here. How am I going to make a difference? Then the second question, which is related to the above, is for whom are you going to make the difference? That defines the purpose. So organizations have to start there, otherwise things will fall apart. Because it will be very difficult for you to attract employees. Why are they there? What are they there to do if the organization doesn't make a difference? Then in order for it to do that, it then has to define its purpose from this perspective. 1, its mission. 2, vision. 3, values and objectives. Because initially when we started our journey, I asked you and you mentioned that the company has to know where it's going. And it was not clear back then what you were talking about. Were you talking about its vision? Were you talking about its mission? Or were you talking about its objectives? So that is, or those are important questions. But before we go, let me ask you, and I want to hear you from your side. What are the difference between these things for you? What is a mission? What is a vision? What are values and objectives? I've then copied some of the companies we know on the next couple of slides, which I'll therefore want us to just read and understand. But I'm just keen to hear your perspective. What are those things for you? CIMA, go for it.
Yes, Rendan. For me,
Hmm.
I think mission, it's all about what I'm about. It's all about what basically what we do. This is what we strive to achieve and all that. And vision is more about where we want to see ourselves. Where are we headed? What is that thing that drives us, that we are chasing, to say we want to at least reach that, be it a milestone, but we have that desired destination, to say at least we want to see ourselves there. And then the values, it's all about those principles that would enable us to get to where we want to be. And I think objectives, I'm trying to see if there's nothing that I've said that I pretty much defines objectives, but I think objectives are, let me just use term goals to say, over and above that mission, it's especially over and above the vision. And this is, what I'm not sure if when I'm saying we are trying to also achieve, I'm repeating myself, but I think you probably do get how I'm defining these terms, and maybe if there's any difference in terms of how I see them, I hope it did come through. Yeah.
All right. No, thank you so much for that. And you've really captured it well right there. And as you will get to see, a mission is also an objective. It is just more of a, call it an overarching objective, like the bigger picture objective. And then the objectives is like translating that big objective into like milestones. Like I want to complete my degree. That's my mission. So that's my so I'm I'm my fundamental vision, and now to break it down will be to say I want to pass first year, I want to pass second year, I want to pass third year. So those things will contribute to getting me to the bigger picture, but I then deal with it objective, like what is it that I need to do now in the next year in order to be and achieve what is part of my mission. Because my mission, as you're saying, it's all about what do we do? What is it about us? Okay. Anyone wants to add or offer a different perspective? All right, let's go for it. So now, just to then look at some of the familiar organizations out there. So I've got Coke here, and I've got Mnet. Mnet, which is one of the premium channels in DSTV. So when we look at Mnet, this is extracted from their 2021 article on page or latest page. So they're saying that our strategy, our vision, as Simo said, the thing we strive to be, they strive to be the leading African storyteller. And in doing so, set the benchmark for the country's content industry. That is Mnet. Then what is its mission? So what does it do? Like, what does it strive to do? What does it strive to achieve? So we know what it aspires to be, but it's like now this captures what it does, like what is the fundamental reason it exists. It exists to create relevant content, aspirational video entertainment that resonates with its communities. In its drive to create that content that people talk about, it is building, or it's looking to build active communities whose members engage on all platforms. That's Mnet. So what does it do? Fundamentally speaking, its purpose is to create relevant content. Or it's to create relevant and aspirational video entertainment. But what does it strive to be? To be the leading African storyteller. Okay, that is its mission and vision. Now let's look at one of the familiar companies, Coke. Coke says its purpose is to refresh the world. Interesting, and to make a difference. That's it. What do you guys do? Like, you will think that they will say that we are a manufacturer of no. So here it's the fundamentally, what is it doing? When it's like a mission. It's a big umbrella, and everything you want it to be able to fit. So if Coke tomorrow now has an energy drink, does it refresh? Does it make a difference? That will what we'll ask. If tomorrow it's in the water business, does it refresh? Does it make a difference? If it's in the coffee business, if now we are seeing Coke selling petrol, we will ask, does it refresh the world? Does it make a difference? So everything can be judged against that mission, that purpose. But in that purpose, what is it looking to do? Now let's see. Our vision is to craft the brands and choices of drinks that people love, to refresh them in body and spirit, and done in ways that create a more sustainable business and better shared future that makes a difference in people's lives, communities, and our planet. So very bold statements right there. Then we've got our local healthcare group, Mediclinic. So Mediclinic, what is your purpose? It is to enhance the quality of life. As a hospital group, I believe, as a healthcare group, I believe that is what a hospital should do. It should help to enhance the quality of my life. If I'm not well and I'm to go there, I will expect them to live up to that purpose. But what is their vision? It is to be the partner of choice that people trust for all their healthcare needs. So you can clearly see the kind of aspiration that comes in a vision. Then our values, the Mediclinic group and its employees support the following core values: client-centeredness, trusting and respectful, patient safety focused, performance-driven, and team-oriented. So we're going to be exploring all those things. The what? The mission, the vision, the values, objectives. So let's go for it. We are starting off with the mission. So what is a mission? So CIMA then defines a mission as a fundamental objective of an entity expressed in general terms. And that's what we've been seeing for the three companies we've seen. It is the fundamental objective. What do I do? What does this company do? It refreshes the world. What does this one do? It creates relevant and aspirational video entertainment. What does it do? It enhances the quality of life. That is our fundamental objective in general terms. So in general terms, it means that we are not specifically talking about a particular customer. We are not talking about, that it's very broad, it's very general. But its basic purpose It clarifies the basic purpose of why an organization exists. Why does Mediclinic exist? And the idea is that from that mission, strategies can be developed. So therefore, in our rational model of strategy, when we are busy evaluating strategies, we'll need to assess them against the mission. And that's why bullet point number 3 is so significant. That when we talk about evaluating strategies, you cannot forget the mission of the company. The other way to look at the mission is the mission says why you do what you do, not the means by which you do it. Why do we do the things we do? We want to enhance life, the quality of life. We want to refresh the world. We want to create relevant and aspirational video entertainment. So that is the organization's mission. So that is the organization's mission statement. Just the communication of why they exist in a simple wording. So we will therefore need to have a better understanding of how mission statements work. So mission statements are exactly that. These are published statements, apparently of an entity's fundamental objectives. POC has got 2 objectives. Mnet has got 1 objective. Mediclinic, we saw it's got 1. So that's why it can be objective or objectives. Coke wants to make a difference and refresh the world. This may or may not summarize the true mission of the entity. So what that is saying that, yeah, we could have a mission statement which talks to the fundamental objective, but there could be the true mission that people just want to be rich. But that statement will not say that, because people will not buy from you if you say that our objective of starting this company is to be rich. So yes, it could be one of your objectives or your true mission, but don't go telling the world about it. That's what this statement right here is saying. Then essentially what we want to be able to get from your mission, and or what you need to be even asking yourself about that statement, is that, is it clear what is your business? And is it clear what is valued by your customers? If so, what will your business be and what should it be? So these are the things that when you are deriving a mission statement, you need to be thinking about, because it needs to be generic enough or general enough to capture all this. You should not have a mission statement that is too narrow, that is unable to cater for what? For different things. So it has to have some broad kind of thinking, but being clear about it. As a result, mission statements will typically need to be what? Brief. They will need to be a general statement, and it needs to be clear why this entity exists, and also give us a glimpse of where they are. And as I was saying, that when you look at MTN, Mnet's mission, we'll be surprised if we see them, say, in retail, because it told us that it was to create relevant and aspirational video content. So now if it's in retail, we'll say, but how are you developing content? So it has to be clear the business areas in which it intends to operate. And it has to be open-ended rather, to be able to capture new opportunities. Because if it's not open enough, what then happens is that what? It can be limiting about the opportunities that are available. Because if you tell me what you do and it's too narrow, then if there's another opportunity, I will struggle to come and present that opportunity for you. How so though? Because it will get to a point where now I will not think that this will be something that you are interested in. And it need not to be time bound. In other words, it should not be saying we intend to refresh the world within the next 5 years, within the next 10 years. No, it should be open-ended, not time-bound enough so that it can stand the test of time or the changes of time. And it should not include commercial terms, like how much revenue, growth, and so on. It should just be about what? About the purpose. And from there, it can guide the direction of the entity strategies. So essentially, it has to communicate to the different stakeholders, and it has to create the right culture for the company. And it has to ground us when we are busy talking about strategies. We should not miss the mark. So sometimes companies invest millions and millions of rands and dollars into just drafting that line. Because they know that if they mess it up, they can mess the growth of the company. They can mess how strategic decisions are made. They can mess who they attract in the organization and retain. So that statement of who are we, what is our purpose, is so crucial. But sometimes the problem is those statements can be out there to communicate to the customers. Whereas when you come inside, you find that it's an entirely different world as an employee. So you are out there and they're talking about that our job is to make a difference. But when you come in, then you find that every division, everyone is expected to report or they're dealt with in the same way. But if we are dealt with in the same way internally, how are we supposed to think differently and therefore make a difference to the people we are saving? That could be the inconsistency of the mission statement not reflecting the actual values of the organization. They are often too vague. What do you mean you refresh the world? Like, what are you doing? So the world needs to be refreshed. Like it will suggest that the world somewhat is in a state of needing refreshment. So what do you mean? That's one of the things we'll then ask. And sometimes they are ignored because we are just saying that, no, this is a publicity stunt. And sometimes they could be what? They could become outdated. So that is how we think about mission statement. So the key takeaway is what? It is the fundamental objectives of the entity. Whereas a statement, a mission statement, it's simply a published statement about those objectives, which may or may not reflect our true intention. And it should meet or tick some boxes for it to be considered to be appropriate. That is the mission. Then the vision. So the mission is the fundamental objective. What about the vision? The vision now, on the other hand, it is what? It now takes a forward looking, it's our aspiration. So we are busy defining our ideal position that we want to reach, maybe in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time. We want to be the leading African what? African storyteller. We want to craft brands and choice of drinks that people love to refresh them in body and spirit. We want to be a partner of choice that people trust for all their healthcare needs. So it is an ideal position that the company wants to achieve, our aspiration. And it therefore gives us the longer term direction of our strategies. Because if I ask you, so wait, so I see that you're taking this strategy because this is what you do, but will this strategy get you there? Or your vision is to craft brands that people love and to refresh the mind and body. So, okay, what if you launch this? Will this still fit in there? Definitely, it will help me to get to that vision I've told you about. But sometimes it could be too broad. Sometimes it could be too vague. Sometimes it could not even capture the reality of where we want to go. So it does suffer from the same drawbacks that what mission statements suffer from. Then that's vision statements. Next is values. What do values talk to? So Simos told us that values talk to the principles that we adopt as an organization to achieve our mission and vision. And it's essentially that. This is like the ethics backbone of the entity. These are the principles that we live by as an organization. We live by as an organization. So these values are important. It's like in audit, almost every audit firm nowadays has to say that we do our work with integrity, recognizing that the profession was once under pressure. And when it was under pressure because of whether they were considered to be independent, whether they were really acting not out of self-interest, but acting to protect public interest. So these are therefore some of the things that they will want to achieve or to do. Then we therefore have to ensure that these values are really appropriate enough to help drive the behavior that we want to see and we believe it's associated with us. And therefore, it means when we are making decisions, someone needs to stop and say, but guys, I understand that we are about to go to this wedding, but will it not cloud our integrity if we are going to clients' weddings? I understand that we need to accept this gift, but will it not cloud our integrity? So those are the kind of things that we are saying that it should guide the actions of management. It should guide the actions of employees and other stakeholders. That people should know that about you, that no, if we do this, this will be in contradiction to what the company says. So I know as a supplier, I cannot go and deliver half-baked training services to this organization. So we are therefore recognizing the significance of values. And in some instances, I know many companies that will then have those values on your screen, on your desktop, so that, yeah, maybe you are busy there wanting to send a scathing email to someone, and it will say that we are empathetic. It could say that we are mindful of others. We are. Then you're like, no, no, no. Maybe I need to hold back because this is not living up to this value with this scathing email I've just drafted. Or it says we are honest. So that's the power of what? Of values, that it can guide that staff behavior. It can demonstrate integrity and accountability to stakeholders. And in some cases, we choose some businesses because of their values, because it's like we trust that they will never do that. And right now, in a world where to be cheated in terms of what? Of internet scams and so on, we want brands that will then tell us that they care about our safety, and we see them doing something about our safety. And with that, it is able to set the culture of the organization. But values are not just copying and paste. They are relevant in what? In different contexts. Like if you go and copy Mediclinic's one, which says patient safety focused, but we know that one of the things that hospitals have been criticized about or have needed to improve over the years was the safety of what? Of their patients. And during COVID, there was even that belief that if you go to a hospital, you are not going to come back. And it was concerning because these are supposed to be places which we trust. And the vision of Mediclinic was what? To be a trusted partner when it comes to healthcare needs. But you will hear stories that the last thing you want to do if you are sick is to go to a hospital during COVID because you're not going to come back. And that was concerning because it meant that the attitude towards patient safety seems to be something that we're saying hospitals are no longer holding value to. They are no longer considering to be core principle of what they do. And with that, it then harms their business. Because that's what customers and key stakeholders, in this case patients, look for. They want their safety. And that is what values are all about. So we are done with values. Now, let's talk objectives. So objectives, we've mentioned it briefly a little bit earlier. When we said what? When we said that these objectives are more specific and seek to translate the mission into a series of mileposts or milestones for the organization to follow. Oh, so I've got my fundamental objective. And with strategic objectives or these objectives, it's like milestones or mileposts to hit. But for them to help me, unlike the mission, they cannot be general. They have to be smart. One, they have to be specific. It has to be clear and easy to understand what is the objective here. I need to pass my first year. Right, that's clear to me. Measurable, to enable me to control and communicate. In order to pass, I need to have completed all the modules within. So I need to have completed all the modules that are designated as year one or first year modules. That's clear and that's measurable. I know that I'm not hitting this target when I'm not passing all the modules. Attainable. Yes, the reason why there's second year, third year, and other of my peers have gone through And when I look at the pass rate, and the pass rate is like 80% from first year to second year, then I know that this is mostly to be what? Attainable. Relevant. Is it relevant? My mission is to complete my degree. So if that is my mission, passing first year, it is something that is relevant to that mission. Then time. When do I want to pass this first year? I have to pass it in my first year, in 1 year. So that will then be the time period. So that is what we are talking about. Do you see how strategic, or sorry, not strategic, but objectives are looked at? So objectives are looked at in that way. And maybe if we go down quickly, the one I gave there, it says grow revenue by 15% over the 5 years. All right. One, is it specific? Yes, I'm not growing profit. I'm not reducing cost. I am growing revenue. So that's clear. Is it measurable? Yes. Revenue is in rand terms, and when it grows, and we can measure the percentage from 1 year to the other. So yes, that is measurable. Is it attainable? Given the context, yes, the market is growing at this rate, my competitors are growing, I'm able to take market share, so this is attainable. Is it relevant? Yes, having strong revenue will lead to more profits, will lead to me paying more to my employees, will lead to, so this is a relevant target. Time, it needs to be done over the next 5 years. That is what we then consider as SMART objective. Then, what about the hierarchy of objectives? So we are then saying that what? It is translated into, or it may be translated into strategic, tactical, as well as operational objectives, which makes sense. So generally, we talk about strategic objectives being the ones that will help us to know whether we are achieving our mission. Then we know we have to take them down to tactical, which will maybe loosely translated into year, 6-month, weekly, and so on objectives. And we are then saying that a firm may also have corporate objective, which is this then what? The primary objectives or the broad objectives of an organization. And secondary objectives that they relate to what? To various strategies. So let's just make an example about the revenue. So the organization can have growth of 15% per annum in revenue over the next 5 years. That is our primary objective. That is our corporate strategy. How do we get there? We need to launch new products every year. And any new product launch needs to achieve a contribution of 20 million in revenue. So that is what? That is a secondary objective. We are saying that we know when we launch a new product and it brings 20 million, it will move us in par or above the 15%. So that is how we think about it. So objectives can either be long-term or short-term objectives, or they could be financial or non-financial objectives. So think about objectives as a translation of the fundamental objective into corporate and or primary and secondary objectives. And now we are done with objectives. Let's look at stakeholders. So we have mentioned before that when we are busy devising our mission and what? And vision. We are traditionally been mindful of what? Stakeholders in mind. And we're going to see that there are what we call market stakeholders and non-market stakeholders. So generally, when we talk about stakeholders, we are talking about market stakeholders. And these are those that have an interest in our strategy. And generally speaking, it will be the people that execute on that strategy and the people that are affected by that strategy. So the people that are what? That have to execute the strategy. We're talking about management and staff. The people that will be affected by the outcome of the strategy, we are talking about the shareholders, the customers, and the suppliers. So these are some of the things that we are mindful of. So we are trying to manage the stakeholders. We want to understand them. We want to be able to know that they are happy with the outcome of our strategy. They're even happy with our strategies. So in other words, they should not just really look at our mission statement and say, oh, we see you cook, we refresh the world, we see you make cleaning, enhance the quality of life. But they should be saying, how do you do that? What can I see the blueprint to achieving this mission? So they're interested in a little bit more. And the reason why it's important to understand stakeholders is because whether we're talking about personal or a business, the statement of no man is what is an island. It's relevant because it recognizes that being an island, I'm there sitting isolated, I'm sitting all alone, and I'm surrounded by vast oceans. As an organization, I need to have strategic networks where I'm able to connect with suppliers, customers, and be able to what? To work to achieve long-term strategic advantage. Then if we're to talk about these stakeholders, we are now understanding that they are not only interested in our mission statement, but our strategies. But how should we then deal with them in that context? How should we consider them? We should consider them by first knowing who they are. When I say stakeholders in your context, who is it? Identify them. And number two, identify their needs. So that is what it's all about. Because I need to understand what they want. I need to make sure that my mission statement caters for them, but that's not enough. When I devise my strategies, I need to make sure my strategies did consider them. So firstly, I have to define them. And secondly, I have to know what they want. But even if I identify them and I identify 10, and for big organizations, it might be a lot more, I will need to accept that I cannot please them all. I can't. I can't satisfy all their needs. So what do I do then? I have to have strategies to manage them. I have to have strategies to manage them. Why should I though? Why can I not just leave it be? Because they can be a source of risk and disruption. I'm not sure whether you saw in Sasol's recent AGM early in the year. Sasol was there about to present its results. There was a big disruption from environmental groups. They had to hold the entire presentation. I mean, look at Sasol. This is a multi billion rand company. And environmental groups, these are people that don't even have shares in the company. They disrupted a meeting for people with shares, for people that want to hear about the good returns that this company is making. So it's important because if we don't, they present a source of risks and disruption. So now we are understanding that, oh, they are important and we have to do what? We have to be mindful of them. So how do we then go about managing them? We have to consider two things: their power and their interest. So their power is simply the influence that they have over the organization, their ability to impose their will on us. And the level of interest indicates whether they are what? They are really interested in us. Do they care? Do they care? So we then get to be introduced to Mendelow's matrix. Mendelow's matrix then says that in order to manage stakeholders, we need to manage them or devise strategies to manage them, taking into account their power and level of interest. And this is then presented in the stakeholder mapping quadrant. And as you can see, what do we have there? We have power on one side, which is on the y-axis, and interest on the x-axis. Then there are 4 blocks, which talks to the level of power and the level of interest that someone has. But more importantly, it talks about the strategies that we need to implement in order to manage them. So if we then start with the first block, where there's someone with low power and low effort, low interest. So this is someone that, one, they've got very little power. So if I say no, they cannot do anything. They cannot even threaten me in a way that I will care. Then interests, they also don't care. Whether I pay dividends, whether I don't, whether I comply with environmental regulations or I don't, they don't care. So if that's the case, then I should put minimal effort into dealing with them. Then there are those that are what? That have got low power, but high interest. So those I need to be a little bit worried about, because this person cares about what I do, but they don't have enough power to influence what I do. So do you see them? So they've got high interest, so they care, but they've got little power to make a change. So who are these people? These people are my staff, my customers, my suppliers, and even the environmental groups. So those are the people that I know have got a high interest, but very limited power. So I need to keep them informed. I cannot ignore them. Why? Because we have seen so many instances where employees have done petitions and then they were able to even kick out management. So I understand that they are very much interested, but they've got legal power. But the problem is that they can concentrate their power and get someone that believes in their cause to lobby their cause for them with because of their power, using their power. So we want to just keep them informed. Then we've got someone who's got high power and low interest. So that's government. So government will not bother you. So the police will not bother you if you don't break the law. So they've got very little interest on what you do. That's why they will not come and just randomly and knock at your door at home and say, police, open up. We just wanted to check whether everything is in order here. No, they've got the power to do that, but they've got little interest. But let there be a gunshot, they will be there. You've now piqued their interest. Commit crime, they will be there. Have questionable dealings, they will be there. So this, traditionally, we see what? We see government sitting, the regulators, where they are saying that, no, we don't have any interest to care about what you do, but don't make us care because we've got the power to change things. So what do? I keep them satisfied. I don't break the law. I comply with any laws and regulation that is in place, and so on. Then I've got what? The last quadrant, the key players. These people have got both the power and they care. So these are the directors, these are the shareholders that if they are not happy, they can kick out management. So that is who they are. So these are key players, and you have to ensure that you are actively engaged with them. Then we've got the non-market participants. So the non-market participants, what do they talk to? They talk to those participants or stakeholders that are not part of the commercial, but they're relevant. So in the case of SASO, those are those lobby groups, environmental groups. We have seen also Shell struggling. We have seen Shell struggling, or was it Total, struggling to start some exploration because these civil groups had blocked it. They've gone to court to get interdicts. So then we come to realize that as an organization, we should not only focus on dealing with our customers, directors, suppliers as the core stakeholders, but we should be mindful to then be dealing with government and to be dealing with these, environmental groups. Because they can affect our competitiveness. So they can build it or they can destroy it. Because the pressure that they can put on those that have got power can be so significant that those that have got power can act. So we need to develop non-market strategies where we build relationships and engagements with these non-market stakeholders. And one way to do that is to then engage in what we call corporate political activity, where we are interested in influencing non-market issues like laws and regulations. Then, how can we do that? We can do that. Why should it matter first? Because the government has got so much power and they can change the rules of the game. We have seen them with the recent online intermediation platforms market inquiry, where they were challenging the likes of Take a Lot. And they went to the point where they say, Take a Lot, you need to split your business between the marketplace as well as the retail business. So they were then where they were imposing capacity expansion issues on Take a Lot. Then we have seen the government coming into the market and say, yeah, because of load shedding, if you install solar, we're going to give you a tax break. So they were pumping up the demand for solar installation in order to mitigate In order to mitigate the impact of load shedding. Then we know that they sometimes have rules and regulations in order to what? To limit divestment and exit of firms. And South African Airways, as well as MultiChoice, are some of those classic industries where there are regulations about the maximum holding that a foreign company can hold in a particular local entity. And we have seen them also controlling emerging industries through policies, banking licenses, which now are available to what? For fintech company, bank zero-time banks, being banks that don't have the capital infrastructure. Then they can also affect entry barriers as well as competition policies and new product adoption. So the government can be quite powerful. They can be quite powerful. I mean, right now we see them facilitating new entrants in what? In the energy generation space. After the move to break down Eskom into 3 divisions, as well as to do what? As to allow for these IPPs. That's the power of government. But we have seen also the delays with spectrum. We have seen the delays with this IPP. We have seen the delays with the digital migration in TV broadcasting. So a number of things can be delayed. And we've heard about what? About some allegation against the likes of MultiChoice and how they were delaying some of those tactics because of the impact that it will have. So what it just means, it means that in pursuing political activity, one has to balance the fine act of not being too selfish and being selfish and being illegal. How so? Because the way that corporate activity or corporate political activity normally works is that one, we can do lobbying, where we then connect with some of these leading industry bodies, not industry bodies, but civil society. They are doing tax abuse, your AfriForums and so on, and other lobbying mechanism in order to achieve or see laws and regulations that can favor us. Sometimes it could be, if you think about the MTNs, the chair is who? The chair is the former Deputy Minister of Finance, Deputy Finance Minister of Finance. And we've seen even in telecoms where the likes of Jabu was also a former government official and been a director of Vodacom. So what some of these firms do is that they then appoint these previously political figures into director position, hoping that they will then be able to leverage their influence. And influencing public opinion, it's where now the entities appeal to the general public, knowing that the general public will put pressure on the government. Then donations, that's where now we hear about this multi-party financing legislation, to say that you hear that some of the big names in South Africa make donations to these political parties, and the idea is that sometimes it really questions the independence of those political parties. Then the association as well as legal actions. And as I've mentioned, some of these are questionable because if you know very well that you are appointing a former minister so that they can use their power against their people, then they can start opening opportunities and so on. That could be considered illegal. And also, when you are making donation, it might even border on bribery. So those are some of the things that we just need to be mindful of. But the point is, we recognize that it's not only market stakeholders, but it's also non-market stakeholders that are crucial in the success of a company strategy. And with that, we are done with what? We are done with chapter 2 and section A of the syllabus. So section A focuses on 1, the strategy process, and 2, generating strategic option and understanding the value or role of mission, objectives, vision, values, and crucially, stakeholders. So that is the first part. And remember what I said before. Key here is to know the things we are speaking about and understand them, so that when you are doing the objective test, you are able to do it. You are able to deal with the core issues. So that's where we keep it for tonight. Are there any questions before we call it a night?
Nothing specific to the content from your side, Brendan.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. If there are no questions, we'll then park it here for the evening. Thank you very much, and we will talk soon. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.